Call to order the regular council meeting of Tuesday, October 3rd in Cayce City Hall chambers. The present public have been notified according to the Freedom of Information Act?
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you. I believe Councilmember Socks has our invocation tonight.
Yeah, pray with me if you will. Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to meet tonight to discuss the business of our great city. I pray that you work through us tonight and that the decisions we make are in the best interests of our city and its residents. We thank you for our city staff and public safety officers and pray that you're with them as they keep our city safe. Lord, we also come to you tonight with heavy hearts and ask that you be with the family and friends and loved ones of Richland County Deputy Jacob Sarlin. Lord, we ask that you give them the strength to cherish the memories with him and find comfort in the peace of your presence. I pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're getting just a hair minute late start because we had a great presentation at 5 o'clock that we're going to get to hear a recap of in just a minute. We had a great full room for that, so thank you all for joining us. Our next item of business is the approval of minutes. You have before you the September 5th, the September 20th, and the September 26th meeting minutes.
Motion to approve all three, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. I'll call the, or is there any discussion? I'll call the question.
Councilmember James.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins.
Yes.
Councilmember Socks.
Yes.
Councilmember Carter.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, thank you. So moved. Next, we have public comment regarding items on the agenda.
No one signed up, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. We have approval of a proclamation declaring October 15th, 2023 as South Carolina Latino Hispanic Business Day. Would you like me to read the proclamation first, or would you like to approve it first?
I'd like to make a motion to approve it, Mayor.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. So whereas September 15th through October 15th, the city of Cayce celebrates the color, accomplishments, and traditions nationally of the Latin Hispanic community. And whereas 8 Hispanic origin groups had at least 1 million people living in the United States in 2021, the 5 largest Hispanic populations in the U.S. by origin groups were Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Salvadorans, Dominicans, and Cubans. The other 3 origin groups with populations over 1 million were Guatemalans, Colombians, and Hondurans. And whereas South Carolina is home to over 800,000 Latino businesses, and whereas the city of Cayce welcomes the growing Latino Hispanic-owned business community, and whereas in 2023, the city of Cayce houses Latino Hispanic-owned businesses in the hospitality, retail, automotive, construction, and personal services, and whereas Moda Enterprises Chief Executive Officer Vanessa Moda established the first Latino Hispanic Business Day on October 15th, 2019 in the state of South Carolina to celebrate the contributions to the community, the economy, and to celebrate the individual accomplishments of the Latino Hispanic population to our state. And whereas the city of Cayce celebrates contributions of Latino Hispanic businesses and will recognize events and festivities during Hispanic Heritage Month, and recognize October 15th, 2023 as South Carolina Latino Business Day. I will call the question.
Councilmember James.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins.
Yes.
Councilmember Socks.
Yes.
Councilmember Carter.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, thank you. So moved. So now, therefore, I, Elise Parton, Mayor of the City of Cayce, and on behalf of Council, do hereby proclaim October 15th, 2023 as South Carolina Latino Hispanic Day in the City of Cayce. I believe we have some representatives. Can we all go down and take a picture together?
Yeah.
Okay, next we have a presentation by Ms. Kimberly Hinder with Stantec on the findings for the City of Cayce African American Cemeteries Survey Grant.
Good evening. Last summer, the City of Cayce was awarded a federal historic preservation grant to identify African American cemeteries and hired Stantec to perform the work. My name is Kim Hinder, and I'm a senior historian with Stantec. Tonight's presentation is to review the results of the work with you. Next slide. We identified 7 African American cemeteries and 4 which may have had some African American burials within the city limits. We recorded them on archaeological and architectural survey forms and submitted them to the Department of Archives and History along with photographs. Next slide. Our site visit of St. Anne's 1 Cemetery identified 34 marked interments. Historically associated with St. Anne's Mission, the property on which this cemetery was located was acquired by the Episcopal Church from Harriet Arthur in 1886. The church was meeting here by 1891, but the marked graves span the years from 1927 to 2005. Death certificates identified an additional 28 burials ranging from 1915 to 1977. Next slide. Nearby, the cemetery referred to as St. Anne's 2, or Earl Cemetery, was heavily obscured by brush, but our site visit identified 24 marked interments, some of which were south of the parcel boundary. Historic research indicated that at least 9 additional people were buried here. Due to confusion over many members belonging to the St. Anne's Church, some of the death certificates marked as St. Anne's Cemetery may be interred in this cemetery. Known death dates range from 1915 to 2007. Oral history indicates that this cemetery may have been used by those enslaved on the Arthur plantation. An 1839 plat we geo-referenced showed this cemetery near the homes of Henry Arthur and his sisters, who jointly owned 125 enslaved people in 1860. In 1885, Harriet Arthur conveyed 10 acres to David and Lavinia Earl in consideration of faithful services rendered her deceased husband, General Henry Arthur. In 1899, when a widowed Lavinia conveyed right-of-way to the Carolina Midland Roadway, the deed noted that it would not run through the graveyard on the Earl property. This is the first mention of St. Anne's 2 Earl Cemetery. After her death, the property passed to her son, but he and his wife had no children, so there were no clear owners after they passed away. In 1971, resident Sarah Moore expressed concern over the cemetery, noting that her grandparents, Ed and Martha Barnwell, were buried north of the existing fence line. Next. Currently, St. Anne's 2 Earl Cemetery is nestled in a grove of mixed-growth trees adjacent to commercial development and an active railroad. The eastern half of the parcel could not be accessed because of dense vegetation, and it is possible there are additional graves in this section. Grave depressions were also observed in the open area. Next. Another platted cemetery associated with St. Anne's Church was identified along Wilkinson Street. The Episcopal Church had just over 22 acres by 1927 when a plat was filed subdividing their land and dedicating a cemetery parcel along Wilkinson Street. Although the site visit did not reveal any markers or depressions indicating a cemetery, property records still indicate it as such. And I found out tonight that it was known as the Hart Cemetery. Next. The Taylor Cemetery only has 3 marked graves. The 2 legible markers were for World War I veteran Abraham Taylor and his sister Ruthie Taylor. A search of death certificates revealed that their mother and 14 other individuals were buried here between 1906 and 1932. The Seaboard Cemetery was noted at the same location during the public meeting. However, the only records found indicating its existence were the death certificates of 12 individuals interred between 1928 and 56. At present, the Taylor Seaboard Cemetery is not maintained, with grass growing taller than the grave markers at the time of our visit. This cemetery is at particular risk of headstone breakage due to the adjacent road and parking area. Next. Due to the proximity and possible tie between the 2 burial grounds, we also looked at the Arthur Cemetery. Consisting of 14 known interments spanning from 1817 to 1906, most of the existing markers belong to members of the Arthur family. As shown by georeferencing the 1839 plat noted earlier, this cemetery was near the plantation of Hargrove and Mary Arthur. Although primarily a family cemetery, a burial ground for those enslaved on their plantation may have been nearby. and 2 burials in the cemetery had unknown ties to the family. After the Author family died out, the Cayce Land Company sold a 72-acre parcel to the American Agricultural Chemical Company in 1910. The deed noted the existence of a cemetery at the southeastern corner of the property extending along the right-of-way of the Seaboard Airline Railway, 225 feet. The current length of the cemetery paralleling the railroad is approximately 72 feet, possibly indicating that the Taylor Seaboard Cemetery was considered part of the same cemetery in 1910. In 1956, Foreman Street was extended through the area, possibly cutting through the eastern portion of these cemeteries, and the aerial is shown on the right. Next. Residents at the January meeting reported that plats showed a cemetery on property historically owned by the Gignard family, who started a brickworks on the west bank of the river around 1801. When the family decided to subdivide their land, they hired the Tomlinson Engineering Company to file a plat in 1936. It depicted, quote-unquote, a colored cemetery south of the brickworks. While there is no above-ground evidence of this cemetery, death certificates indicated that at least 12 African-American people with ties to the brickworks were interred here between 1916 and 1944. The cemetery continued to appear on plats until 1967, but was developed with houses after 2001. Next. Mount Pisgah AME Church Cemetery is located on a 3-acre parcel incorporating over 200 marked graves, a few of which were south of the parcel boundary. Death certificates or obituaries identified an additional 19 burials in the cemetery. Andrew Davis sold the land for this cemetery to Mount Pisgah AME Church in 1891. In 1914, the church received 2 acres, about 7/10 of a mile southeast of the cemetery, and relocated their meeting space, but still used the cemetery. Next. Although the church acquired this property in 1891, the oldest remaining marked grave dates to 1905. The cemetery is still in use and is well maintained. Some of the graves exhibit the purposeful scraping of the ground surface, but there is evidence of erosion in the northern portion of the cemetery. Next. Many damaged markers were observed, some likely victims of vandalism. Military bronze plaques were possibly stolen, leaving only blank stones. With the cemetery sloped and eroding landscape, markers and even field stones may have been buried by the shifting soils. Some grave depressions were also evident. Most of the graves with temporary funeral home markers tend to be concentrated at the western end of the cemetery, with about half of those missing the information of those interred. Next. Local residents at the January meeting identified an area along 6 Mile Creek as a possible cemetery site. Our visit did not reveal the exact location, but research did indicate its existence. African-American Rosetta Morgan donated 1/4 of an acre of land with a church and graveyard on 6 Mile Creek to the Mount Pleasant Colored Church in 1887. Death certificates were found for 12 burials between 1918 and 1951. According to the current Mount Pleasant Baptist Church, their organization was an offshoot of the Mount Pleasant Baptist Church in the West Columbia area, and they were unaware of the existence of a cemetery at this location. Next. The final cemeteries which were researched were affiliated with the Granby community. The Siebels and Haynes cemeteries were small family cemeteries for early residents of Granby, whose census records indicate had enslaved people in their household. The Cayce Granby Cemetery appears to have started as a community cemetery. All 3 are located on the Martin Marietta Materials Quarry property. Next. Occupied roughly between 1754 and 1818, Granby was the primary trading center along the Congaree River at the time. African Americans played a significant, if unappreciated, part in the community. In 1800, more than half of Granby's population was enslaved, with a total of 170 blacks and 162 whites. It is unknown if those who died while enslaved were interred in a separate section of the cemetery or at a different location. The cemetery incorporates 21 known burials with death dates ranging from 1804 to 1956. Located approximately 180 feet east of mining activity, the cemetery is entirely covered with gravel with evidence of recent blading. Next. There were numerous grave markers with broken elements within the cemetery. Considering the recent disturbance as well as the abundance of gravel covering the area, the probability of there being additional sunken and lost markers is high. Pieces of fieldstone and marble were evident throughout the area. Next. Both the Hain and Siebel cemeteries have been impacted by quarry operations, with a monument erected for the Hain Cemetery in the Granby Cayce Cemetery, and the original monuments in the Siebel Cemetery relocated. Considering the past vandalism and disturbance in the general quarry area, there may be additional burials in the vicinity of the original family plots, and it is unclear if the enslaved members of the households may have been buried nearby. Thank you. Although this presentation focused primarily on the identification and conditions in each cemetery, our report provided a brief history of the community, discussed burial traditions, and made recommendations for maintenance, stabilization, and interpretation. Two of the earliest cemeteries, the Author and Granby Cayce cemeteries, were identified by the State Historic Preservation Office as eligible for listing in the National Register, with most of the other cemeteries requiring some additional testing or research. We are recommending ground-penetrating radar for most of the sites in order to determine the number of burials and the boundaries of the cemetery. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I have one question. You said you was unable to find the Seaboard Cemetery?
The Seaboard Cemetery, yes. As far as I understand, based on the January meeting, it was adjacent to the Taylor Cemetery.
Adjacent to who?
The Taylor Cemetery?
Okay. Well, from my understanding, the Seaboard Cemetery is right here by the Steelhand Brewery, along with the mayor.
That's what
That's
she's
what I'm
talking.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how many graves you say you found?
We found, sorry, let me find my note. For the Taylor Cemetery, we found there's 3 markers there and 14 other individuals buried there. And for the Seaboard Cemetery, there were no markers found, but 12 individuals.
Okay, and can you tell me exactly where you found the Seaboard, the African-American? You say the Taylor's is on the front, right on the front of the road?
Right. The information that I have is based on the January public meeting, that it was at the same location. The
Yeah,
only
but-
thing that I found were the death certificates for the Seaboard Cemetery.
Yeah, so she doesn't have the updated information that you have, if you want to share that with her.
Oh, you don't have the updated information that we have?
Yeah, so
Apparently not.
Okay, okay. All right, then that answers my question.
Why don't you
Okay.
fill her in?
Well, okay, I can fill you in on that if you like. We along with the archaeologists from the University of South Carolina and the mayor, and we had Pastor Jim and my, we did some penetrating down there, and
Oh, great.
and that's why I know we must have found about 20 graves.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
And we probably would have found more, but leaving the Foreman Street and coming on down, and you get to the driveway. The driveway has been impacted with, I guess, machines say about 3 layers of impact, so it wouldn't pick it up anymore. And the weeds and stuff was on the other side of the driveway, hadn't been cut, so he wasn't gonna run his machine down through there to see. But there's probably a lot more graves in there, and I'd like to thank the owner of the property that gave us permission to
Yes.
do that and stuff out there. So we couldn't go down towards the Foreman Street. Off of Foreman, you got Hunter Road comes off of Pearl Street and runs all the way down to Foreman Road. And that cemetery was on the left-hand side of that road, down through, there's a dirt road, comes off of Julius Felder and on down through there. So I guess there's a lot of areas that was missed, and I guess there have to be a plan put together to try to locate them, and how you go about doing that is the issue.
Right, my information was based off the death certificates that I
Yeah.
found that referenced the burial in the Seaboard Cemetery or the Taylor Cemetery.
Yeah.
But no doubt that there are a lot more burials there.
There's a lot more down there. I think it's some Macs down in there, and some Browns back up in there. But as me getting death certificates, I was supposed to have been getting information from some of the younger generation family, the elderly has passed on and stuff. And you know how that come. If it's not right now, then you probably won't get it. You know. So.
Right.
But yeah, there's some more down in there. Thank you.
I just wanted to make the comment, Tom, had the opportunity to hear you with the public forum, and then again here tonight, Kim, and I just want to say thank you and Stantec for what you guys have done. I think you've catapulted us a great deal into what we need to know. Also, just a question. On the first night when you were here, we had the maps over here on the table, and several people came over and wrote some notes. There was several gentlemen who had written the area down off of Axtell Drive, in between Axtell Drive, Sland Drive, and the river.
That's,
Was that one, is that the
Yeah.
Ginyard that you were
That's the
speaking of?
Ginyard.
It is the Ginyard?
yes.
No, keep going. Yeah,
Right there.
right there.
Okay. So, what did you determine there?
We didn't find any evidence of a cemetery there, but it does appear in plats until 1967. And I found, I think there were a dozen death certificates that indicate burial in the Ginyard Cemetery. And all of the people that I found death certificates for had some tie to the brickworks, whether it was their father that worked there or their husband that worked there. There was some kind of tie going on there. So I suspect, like the Seaboard, there's a lot of burials there that were not recorded, and there's nothing left on the ground. We georeferenced the plat that you see here on the right onto the aerial, so that's the exact location that it was platted. But again, there could have been burials outside of that boundary as well.
Right, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for your
My
hard
pleasure.
work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to staff for putting together a great grant and getting that done. It's meaningful and it matters. Yep, thank you all. Okay, we have discussion approval to reschedule the November 14th, 2023 council meeting to November 15th, 2023.
Motion to approve, Mayor.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I'll call the question.
Councilmember James.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins.
Yes.
Councilmember Socks.
Yes.
Councilmember Carter.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, thank you, so moved. We have before you a request for approval to enter the following committee-approved minutes into the city's record. You have the Museum Commission minutes from August 2nd and the Events Committee minutes from August 10th.
Make a motion to approve all with one.
Second.
Okay? Any discussion? I'll call the question.
Councilmember James.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins.
Yes.
Councilmember Socks.
Yes.
Councilmember Carter.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, thank you, so moved. You have a appointment request before you. The Beautification Foundation currently has one open position, and we have received a potential member application from Mr. Rimbert William Jr. His application is attached for your review.
Motion to approve Mr. Rembert Williams to the Beautification Foundation.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I'll call the question.
Councilmember James.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins.
Yes.
Councilmember Socks.
Yes.
Councilmember Carter.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, thank you, so moved. Next, we have the city manager's report.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. Just quickly, some updates on events. It's our busy time of year. Reminder that this Saturday is our Cayce Fall Fest, put on by the Events Committee. It'll be hosted in Granby Gardens Park down the hill from noon to 6. Also a reminder of the Cayce Beautification Foundation Brickworks fundraising dinner. That's October 25th. Our upcoming Christmas in Cayce schedule is as follows. The city's tree lighting ceremony will be Thursday, November 30th. We are going back to that event and not doing the drive-through this year. The event committee will be hosting carols on the Riverwalk on Friday, December 1st. And the Cayce Historical Museum Christmas Open House will be Saturday, December 3rd. The commission has updated that program a bit. This year will be a European-style Christmas market with 5 or 6 vendor stalls created by the commissioners selling items such as food and crafts. There'll also be lantern tours that are fully scripted and scheduled, so make sure you come check out their new programming there. And lastly, our police department will be helping the Richland County Sheriff's Department over the next couple days as they lay their fallen deputy to rest. So thank them for that work there. And we certainly share in their grief. That's all I have.
Yes, thank you. Any council comments tonight? All right, then we have executive session for receipt of legal advice relating to claims and potential claims by and against the city and other matters covered by the attorney-client privilege. Is there a motion to go into executive session for said reason?
So moved.
Second.
I'll call the question.
Councilmember James.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins.
Yes.
Councilmember Socks.
Yes.
Councilmember Carter.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, thank you, so moved. Awesome, thank you. So no action was taken in executive session except to come out of executive session. Are there possible actions by council in follow-up to executive session?
Mayor, I do have a motion. I'd like to make a motion that our council authorizes our attorney, Mr. Brandon Taylor, and his firm to pursue settlement of the currently litigated claims for the city that we discussed during executive session.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I'll call the question.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins?
Yes.
Councilmember Socks?
Yes.
Councilmember Carter?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, thank you, so moved. Take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Mayor?
Second.
Okay, I'll call the question.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins?
Yes.
Councilmember Socks?
Yes.
Councilmember Carter?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, thank you, so moved. Thanks, y'all, good job.